So we'll call the meeting to order. This is the regular meeting of council of the Municipality of Swan Valley West, held in the council chambers at 216 Main Street West, Swan River, Manitoba, this 8th day of November 2022 at 7 p.m. Present this evening, myself, Reeve, Gade, councillors Carrie, Blosha, Burick, Kushniryk, RJ McGregor, Terry Neely, and Councillor Byron Zbirun joins us by telephone this evening. Also present, Interim Acting CAO Sheila Hawkins. We're still using paper tonight. For most people, Councillor Blosha is using a laptop, but she should have everything on there that we have in our packages, and hopefully next meeting we'll have all the laptops here and be ready to go. So resolution resolved that the agenda for the regular meeting of council held this 8th day of November 2022 shall be adopted as presented. Do we have a mover for that? Councillor Burick. A seconder. Councillor Kushniryk. Any discussion on the agenda or additions to the agenda? We have utility committee report scheduled for in camera. We'll put some thought into that yet if it's going to stay there. If we bump it up, we'll certainly talk about it, but it may not be in camera. Anything else?
Just that 5.3 to table that one for now.
Okay, we'll just do it when we get there.
Okay.
I think on the table.
Yeah.
Okay, hearing nothing, we'll call the question. Those in favor of the agenda as presented. Councillor Zbirun. Councillor Zbirun, are you there?
Yes, sorry, I was reading, I'm sorry. What was that again?
Are you in favor of the resolution to accept the agenda?
Yes.
All right, thank you, that's carried. First up on the agenda this evening, we have minutes to adopt. There's 3 sets of them here. Has everybody had a chance to look? I'll read the resolution here, then we'll discuss if need be. Be resolved that the minutes of the following meetings be adopted as presented. The regular council meeting held on October 25th, 2022. The special meeting of council held on October 28th, 2002. And the special meeting of council held on November 1st, 2022. A mover, please. Councillor Blosha. And a seconder, Councillor Neely. Discussion on any of those sets of minutes, errors, omissions, or anything else? We'll look to you, Councillor Blosha, for the one, because I think you're the only one that...
That's it. Oh, you want to see?
No, I'm just watching what you're doing.
You should have them in your package.
No, I do. I'm just watching what she's.
So,
Yeah.
So they're all there?
Uh-huh.
as far as I know, everything here is correct. If nobody else sees anything, are we ready to accept those? Hearing nothing, we'll call the question. Those in favor of the minutes as presented? And Councillor Zbirun.
Yes.
Okay, that's carried. We have a public works report on our agenda tonight. Is it here or is he coming or what's the plan?
No, because they just got in,
Okay,
and so no, I guess not at this time. He'll provide it for next time unless he can get in before the end of the meeting.
okay, so we're just gonna skip by that now in case he happens to show up. And if he doesn't make it, then we'll pick it up again later on.
Thank you.
So moving into general business, there should be, the financials after. Do you want to do financial first? Or do you care? We usually do financial before general.
Yeah, this is the template.
Oh,
Just
okay.
keep following it.
We'll get to financial later on. We start with section 5.1, ICIP funding update. ICIP is the Investing Canada Infrastructure Program. Ostensibly, this is the rural water pipeline project that Swan Valley West has applied for some time ago. So brief history there. The project represents about an $18 million water pipeline that would connect from Swan River to the west and to the south, essentially serving most residences between Swan River and Benito on the west side of the municipality. The federal government had funding available for that. It was fairly good funding. It was better than 2/3 government money. It was more like 75%, almost 80% at times. it was really advantageous. The municipality applied for the water pipeline as part of that. Where it ran into some issue, what we heard from them initially was they liked the project and would like to go ahead, but we did not have a water agreement with the town of Swan River at the time. There had been an agreement, but the town of Swan River canceled it because we hadn't made use of it. We did some negotiations in time to try and get a water agreement back, and one was approved by previous council practically immediately before this election. So I have a copy of that agreement I'm going to share with council just so everybody has one. We won't talk about it extensively tonight, but this is the agreement that is in draft. The unfortunate thing I have to share tonight is that previous council was informed in August that because the agreement had not been reached, the project was denied. So the $18 million to the water pipeline has been denied. We have asked if it's possible to refile the application. Unfortunately, they indicate the program funding is now full. So they're not currently taking new applications for it, which certainly is something that was near and dear to my heart to get this done and get service to people. But unfortunately, at the moment, that's just not possible. With this particular water agreement, there's been some confusion, so I want to clear that up for council over here tonight too. The town of Swan River doesn't believe there is a signed agreement yet, and yet in Swan Valley West, we think there may be. So we talked to them some, and we had thought it went to Public Utilities Board for approval, but it actually hasn't. The town has never done anything with the agreement. They felt that because it was passed so close to the election, it would be in everyone's best interest to simply hold the agreement until new council reviewed it and looked at it, in case there was changes. And certainly, my first read of it, it calls for a $2.7 million payment to the town of Swan River towards their water plant, which is interesting. So I have asked the mayor and the CAO to discuss that some more. And we've somewhat agreed that our councils will have a discussion about this agreement before it goes to Public Utilities Board. They indicated they were surprised we had agreed to that also. And they thought that perhaps it would be something we would want to further negotiate with them. They were somewhat of the opinion they'd put it into the agreement as a starting number for negotiation, and then it had never been negotiated down like they thought it might be. So we'll leave that for tonight. We won't get into it, but certainly in the near future, we'll have that conversation with the town. Probably the negotiating committee or utility committee will figure out which one's more appropriate and talk to them about whether we really want to be in an agreement where we pay them $2.7 million to ostensibly connect a fire hall to the water service. So we'll leave that for tonight, but if you get a chance to breeze through it, it's good reading. It's very dry reading, even though it's about water. But
So what you're saying is that 2.7 wouldn't be able to come out of the 18 if we did get the 18?
if we got the 18, the 2.7 is a payment over time. If we were doing a whole $18 million water project, I might be able to get my mind around paying $2.7 million to them for capital. But if all we're connecting is a fire hall, I have a hard time figuring out how to pay them $2.7 million to connect a fire hall.
Okay.
You know, so I think we just need to give that a rethink on, and probably at the time, the anticipation was this was for a full water pipeline. But this agreement also provides for connecting the fire hall.
Yeah.
And so, you know, we should make sure we have the agreement we want before we send it to public utilities.
Apples and oranges sorted out.
Yeah, exactly. So then they're willing to do that. They've indicated they would be perfectly open for discussion, so we'll do that. There's no resolution to come for 5.1, it was just unfortunately an update. 5.2, however, the staff Christmas celebration, much happier news. Typically, up until COVID at least, the municipality had held a Christmas party for the staff. We invited the staff and council, of course, to come and have a time together and not necessarily talk shop, but to just visit with each other and get to know each other better and have a festive evening. Historically, we come to council for approval of that, so that's what we're here to discuss tonight, if it would be agreeable to council to host a Christmas party. Sometimes council gets tied up in the nuts and bolts of which day and which time. I don't know if we really need to do that. If we approve it, we can certainly I'm willing to help out with it a bit, and we'll sort that out and make it happen, so we don't have to spend a bunch of time on calendars tonight. But is it generally agreeable to council that we have a Christmas party? And are you okay with spending some money on it?
We always did.
Okay? What do we want to do is kind of varied in the past a little bit. Do we just want to buy supper and the venue? Because we would pay the rental of the hall or whatever, we would pay for the supper. Do we want to do anything other than that? Is that good enough? Thoughts from anybody?
That's about all we used to have.
Yeah.
Get together and have cocktails and supper and a little shop talk likely.
Some.
Somebody would come in, do a little bit of entertainment or a presentation or something, eh?
So we want it, like, you tell us what you want. If you want some entertainment, we can arrange that. I just want to know what council would like to do.
Do we have to decide tonight, as long as you just plan the place?
If you give
plan
us
the
the
place?
general idea of what you want, I'll make sure it happens. I just want, you
We
know,
wait 2 more weeks, it'll be getting almost too late.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, we should at least book the place now.
yeah,
Cater as well, whoever's gonna cater it.
there's nothing pre-written.
Archie's a caterer.
Okay, very good.
Pick a hall, wherever. What do we got, Durban and Lavender,
For Benito Fire to stay in service, it has to be either Durban or Benito.
or Benito Legion,
Yeah.
You got
something
the
like
rec center.
that. You know,
We had at the rec center one year, and people could curl or skate or
Oh, at
go
the rec
upstairs.
center.
There's
Yeah, something like
all
that.
that stuff. Santa came out for the kids. It was pretty family and
Yeah,
gave everybody space. You know, if everybody could do a little bit of everything.
that's a good idea. Just plan.
So if I put with a meal and some entertainment, would that capture that? And we'll sort out those finer details once we have the date and determine it.
Family
you're
event.
not gonna pick the perfect date, no matter what day you
No.
pick, so
No.
you have to pick one and
Hey,
likely early December sometime, I guess, I don't know. Not too close to Christmas,
Other
but
than after Christmas.
Yeah.
can you speak, folks, to the
Everybody's busy.
idea of alcohol? There's two minds of that, of course. Some would say it would be dry, some would say it wouldn't be. What's the will
Would
of
be
council?
what?
Alcohol?
well, there was always
I provide
Wine and
wine.
stuff
I had a
like that.
permit for wine with supper, that was it.
no hard stuff, we didn't want guys getting lost.
Are we okay with doing wine?
I don't have a problem with it.
Do you have any concerns with wine?
We always have to consider the people driving, and so we would be assuming liability for, it's a work function, so all work rules generally would apply. However, if you're gonna style it as a family event, then I'm not sure where that would fall in on liability.
Yeah, if there's
I think
kids
you'd
and
still-
underage people, they will then
We don't have
run into
What
trouble.
if we did
skating
punch or
and
something
such.
instead?
Bunch coffee.
Okay, so we'll do it dry.
Drinks, yeah.
There's 364 other days of the year to drink, I guess,
Okay,
you know.
okay, so I'm not gonna speak to alcohol in the resolution, but we'll just assume it's dry then, because we
Yeah.
didn't say we're having any. So I have a resolution, be it resolved that we hold a Christmas party with a meal and some entertainment. I've left that very vague. My intention would be to invite everybody that could possibly be considered staff. That's, I don't see any issue with
Part-time,
that.
casual, whatever.
Firefighters, everybody.
And people that
We
are on
always have.
committees for us, those kind of people
Yeah,
as
we've always
well.
invited the fire department.
Like library and, you know, those kind of things.
Yep,
And do we, is it just them or is it them and a guest?
them and a guest.
Okay, so each of those people plus the guest if they wish to bring one?
Yeah,
Okay.
so it'd be like guys like Dale and Ron and, you know, whoever does
Yeah.
things for us.
Yep.
Okay, so I changed it slightly, I'll reread it. Be it resolved that we hold a Christmas party with a meal and some entertainment, all staff and associates plus their guest to be invited. Is that workable? Do I have a mover for that?
All of that.
Councillor Neely, do I have a seconder? Good. Any further discussion on that? Hearing none, we'll call the question. Those in favor? Councillor Zbirun.
Yes.
Carried. Next up on our agenda tonight, 5.3, agreement of sale. I spoke to Councillor Blosha about this a few minutes before the meeting. Her indication was she feels we should not deal with this now. I believe I see a note here that we should talk about it in camera. So we're going to skip this for now and carry on. And then we'll come back to it after the in-camera session if it's required, but it may be tabled at that point. Next up, 5.4, conditional use application for the Northeast 223627. We're setting a public hearing date for this. So we're not approving this tonight, we're simply setting the actual date. I'll read the resolution. Whereas the owners of Part Northeast 223627, do you really want me to read all of that?
Yeah.
CT 308 5700 R141000 and R3500 had made an application to divide their property, and whereas the Municipality of Swan Valley West approved Parcel A on September 27th, 2022, in Resolution 2022-474, and whereas the Town of Swan River approved Parcel B on October 4th, 2022, in Resolution 2022-0436, and resolved that a public hearing shall be held on December 13th, 2022 at 7:15 p.m. for the purpose of receiving presentations from those who may be interested in regards to the request for conditional use within the AG zone on the property known as Northeast 3627 West, specifically to allow for the establishments related to the harvesting of natural resources such as forestry in the AG agricultural zone as allowed under Table 4.1 AG Agricultural General Zone Use and Bulk Table of the arm of Swan River Zoning Bylaw number 238304. And be it further resolved that all necessary advertising, mailing, and posting of the notice for said hearing shall be made in accordance with the Planning Act. Do we have a mover? Councillor Blosha moves that. Councillor Kushniryk is the seconder. Discussion about that.
Could you repeat that? Just
Oh, you're going to be moving down the table soon.
I'll deserve it.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. Those in favor? Councillor Zbirun.
Yes.
That's carried. Next, 5.5, conditional use application for another. This one's shorter. Here's the resolution. And again, this is date setting. We're not approving the application tonight. Resolved that a public hearing shall be held on December 13th, 2022 at 7:25 p.m. for the purpose of receiving presentations from those who may be interested in regards to the request for conditional use within the AG zone on the property known as Southeast 263529 West, specifically to allow for a religious institution, Mennonite school, in the AG agricultural zone, as allowed under Table 4.1 AG agricultural zone, general zone, use and bulk table, the arm of Swan River zoning bylaw number 2383-04, and be it further resolved that all necessary advertising, mailing, and posting of the notice for said hearing shall be made in accordance with the Planning Act. Do we have a mover? Councillor Blosha, and seconder Councillor Neely. Any discussion on that? Hearing none, we'll call the question. Those in favor? Councillor Zbirun?
Yes.
That's carried.
Is that, you said December 13th as well?
Yes, both of them.
Yeah.
So this next one is not setting a date. We'll read this resolution and we'll have some discussion on it. Whereas the owners of Park Northwest 213229 have made an application 4193227718 to subdivide their property, and whereas the council for the Municipality of Swan Valley West has reviewed said application, along with a letter received from Community and Regional Planning dated October 19th, 2022, and have no objections to the aforementioned subdivision, therefore be it resolved that we do hereby approve the minor subdivision of the aforementioned property, provided all conditions and requirements set out in said letter from the Province of Manitoba Community and Regional Planning Branch are met. We have a mover. Councillor Kushniryk, a seconder.
Byron should second that.
Byron, do you want to second that? Councillor Zbirun?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. So we'll open this up to discussion. Get up to my pile. Here we
What, like, laptop?
No, I don't want to.
It'd be
I
nice.
couldn't find it.
That'd be nice.
I know. Hold on, 3, 2, 20. Oh, it'll be here. So this, we have a letter from Municipal Relations. Essentially, the proposal here is subdividing a yard site from the agricultural land. They give their approval with
Condition.
some small conditions as per normal. For those new on council, this is pretty boilerplate stuff. There's a map, which is probably the most important part. If somebody has concerns about this, we'll certainly discuss them. Typically though, the concerns with it come from the provincial agencies. If there's an issue with it not following the rules or such, they point that out to us. So we usually don't have to concern ourselves with that as much as just if there's anything else that might concern the RM about the application. There's probably a slight backstory to this one as well. These folks have been waiting for this application for some time. My understanding is that former council gave them verbal approval to go ahead and do the work anyway that needed to be done once this application was completed.
That was the third one?
Yes. So, it would probably be difficult at this point to not approve it, seeing how they're already,
If there's no objections
steps
from
ahead
the
of us.
provincial bodies, we normally don't,
yeah.
unless
if
there's
they-
something that really sticks out.
If they were a farm family and they actually farmed the whole quarter, there would be no questions, it would happen. So
Yeah,
how can you not?
yeah,
Like, and if they meet all the
yeah. So many-
conditions,
you
they
gotta-
meet all the conditions, she has her own, like, how can you?
Done it before, so you pretty well gotta keep doing it.
Any further discussion? If not, we'll call the question. Those in favor? Councillor Zbirun.
Yes.
It's carried. I feel like we have one more on here than I did. Did I do enough?
No, you tabled this.
Table
You
this
read
one.
those both and then mine.
Oh, okay, I see what's happening. It's just, okay, I got it. All right, next up, we will go to 5.7. Each year, under the Municipal Act, council is required to appoint an auditor. We're supposed to do that by the end of August, so it's probably time we get to it. Typically, we advertise for an auditor, and we have been doing that in 3-year increments. So the resolution I'm about to read is to advertise for an auditor. They will make application to us, we'll eventually pick one and appoint them as an auditor. So essentially, this is looking for the CAO to go ahead and advertise the work right now. Be it resolved that council approves the interim CAO to advertise the invitation for proposals for the municipal annual audits for 2022 to 2024 inclusive as presented. Mover, please. Councillor Burick, seconder, Councillor Neely. Discussion on that. In your package, you have the actual proposal showing. It's pretty straightforward. Basically includes all the rules they have to follow that the province sets out. We usually get 1, 2, or 3 applications from various firms and we pick one. Any discussion? If not, we'll call the question. Those in favor? Councillor Zbirun?
Yes.
Carried. We will move to the financial section, section 6. 6.1 is council indemnities for October. Be resolved, the Council of the Municipality of Swan Valley West hereby approves the following payments. Council indemnities for October 2022, checks number 4391 to 4399 for $6,332.58. A mover, please. Councillor Blosha. Someone to second the resolution. Councillor McGregor. In your package, the printouts of those indemnities are there if you wish to review them. There's a summary sheet that shows the councillors and the amounts, and there's also the individual sheets that show you exactly what they did. Does anyone have any discussion of those? Hearing nothing, we'll call the question. Those in favor? Any opposed, or Councillor Zbirun, sorry.
Yeah.
Carried. Next up, payroll checks. Be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of Swan Valley West hereby approves the following payments. Payroll payments number 4377 to 4390 in the amount of $23,681.02. Someone to move the resolution, please. Councillor Kushniryk, someone to second. Councillor Neely. Summary of the payroll payments, I believe, is in there. It just shows the amounts of the checks. We don't normally disclose the names of the employees over camera, but if there was discussion, we could always go in camera later and discuss. Is there anything we need to discuss, or are we good with this? Hearing nothing, we'll call the question. Those in favor? Councillor Zbirun.
Yes.
Carried. We have nothing under section 7 tonight. We'll move into section 8, correspondence. We'll start with 8.1, the building inspector's report. Be it resolved, the building inspector's report for October 2022 be received by the Council of the Municipality of Swan Valley West. Someone to move the resolution, please. Councillor Blosha. Someone to second it.
Yes.
Councillors, we'll call it Zbirun. Discussion on this. The report is in your package. If anyone else has questions, otherwise I have a couple. I'm not seeing anything. So, I guess I'm not understanding what the building inspector does. Because none of this seems to be building inspecting, this seems to be construction work. When I look at it, because it's advertising a bifold door tender, arranging installation of electric furnace. Doesn't sound like typical building inspection stuff. So does anyone have any details, maybe Councillor Blosha, on why it doesn't look like a building inspecting report?
He's the building inspector, so he knows what goes on at those things, so he arranges those things. He's done that in the past.
So like, I guess
Almost like a project manager, but not quite, as far as keeping an eye on progress, I believe is what these refer to.
like to me, it almost looks like this is general contractor stuff on building a fire hall. And so my question is, if the building inspector is a general contractor, who inspects the building as well? Do we have the same person doing code inspections as we have building it?
He's not building it.
But it seems like he's intimately like, I'm just confused. Because to me, the building inspector would be sort of independent of the building process. So whoever was looking after setting up the building inspector would come and say, you did this right or you did this wrong. But if the building inspector is also the person that's there looking after building the building and making sure the contractor's there and such, would there not be some inherent conflict in how do we make sure the building inspector, like I would think we'd have a different person inspecting the building if their building inspector is also the contractor. And I'm not sure what we're doing at Thunder Hill locating for hydro. 'Cause we don't
I'm
have anything
thinking
at Thunder
maybe,
Hill.
just by looking at this, maybe this has got lots to do with the fire hall, so maybe they got a guy that knew he knows all the people to contact and stuff, possibly, I don't know.
Shouldn't be his job to be contacting, he's just inspecting. Building inspector, we used to be,
Well, if he
that
got-
we just inspect the buildings, not,
But if he got direction from council to do it, and he was willing to do it, I guess, somebody's gotta do it, and somebody's gonna get paid for doing it, so.
Would it be fair, Councillor Blosh, that previous council gave them that direction?
I'm sure yeah.
Okay.
That's my
He
take
helps
on
with,
it as
he
well.
helps
He was-
Deborah with planning district stuff too, like, they help each other.
He was likely the most knowledgeable guy in the whole system here when it comes to some of this stuff, is what I'm getting at. Maybe
I just have this bad
get the
feeling
right
that
people to contact,
every
I don't-
time Swan Valley West says we're fortunate to have found in front of something, usually a disaster followed it. I was just saying, that's my personal experience. Every time we say we're fortunate to have found someone on staff that is perfect at this, because a building inspector should not be building a building. But
Well, he's not building it.
certainly is in the middle of it by the look of this report.
Well, it's before our time, I guess, so what you're saying is, what do we do in the future? right?
Yes. So can we have our acting CAO maybe find out some details here on what the plan is? Because certainly I would feel more confident if the person inspecting a new building wasn't the same person involved in making it be there. Because it's just, maybe we could, I'm just thinking out loud, but maybe we could have the building inspector from the town run over the building and just make sure it met code, so there's no conflict. Because I will say this, that my brother-in-law is a contractor, and he was working in a different municipality and happened to have this individual spend some time telling him that he had signed off on the building even though it didn't meet code. And that was concerning to me. So, we'll send that to staff, but I think for tonight we'll accept the report, there's not a lot of choice in that.
We could see if it's like a one-time thing, you know, like, I don't know, I'm just, from all this stuff on here, it's all related to the fire hall, so.
Except the Thunder Hill one, which I don't know what we'd be doing locates for hydro on Thunder Hill for.
We explore that tower, is that,
But that's still not us. I
That's not
don't
us.
understand that one either, but
Yeah,
I'm not aware
the
of
other
that.
ones, I don't, but the other one I don't understand either.
okay. Any other discussion, are we fine with accepting the report?
You know, yeah,
Okay, so if there's no other discussion, call the question, those in favor? Councillor Zbirun?
Yes.
Okay, it's carried. Be resolved the bylaw enforcement officer's report for October 2022 be received by council of the Municipality of Swan Valley West. Put someone to move the resolution, please. Councillor Blosha, someone to second it. Councillor Neely. So again, the report's in your package. It provides really basic details of some things that are ongoing with bylaw enforcement. Typically, if we have concerns with the actual enforcement activities, we'll discuss that in camera. This is just a report of what happened in the month.
What is the work election then?
That is a good question.
He provided security services to the ladies on election night, like just was here being present.
So why would that be on this instead of being charged to elections?
Yeah, it actually should be charged to elections.
Because it's $300 going into bylaw enforcement that should be under our election. We have a contract rate for elections.
Yeah, actually it should be switched over to elections.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a direct election expense, I mean,
it should go to elections.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So we will, if the people are fine, do you want us to modify this slightly to say with moving the election line to something else?
Sure, well, and I'll code it properly.
The appropriate account. Okay, so I'll reread this. Be it resolved that the bylaw enforcement officer's report for October 2022 be received by council of the Municipality of Swan Valley West with moving the election work to the appropriate account. Is that fine with the mover and the seconder? Okay. Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. Those in favor? Councillor Zbirun?
Yep.
Carried. We are moving to,
Benito Fire Department reports did not arrive in time either.
Okay.
I believe you got busy with snow removal instead.
now I did have a pile of them in my pile.
Yeah, he's
That's different
actually
ones?
putting them, yes.
Okay, so we'll skip that for
So
now.
we'll add it to the next
we
one.
need them.
Okay, so we're moving past 8.3, we're not gonna do that, we'll go to Thunder West. Be resolved that the Thunder West Fire Department response report for October 2022 be received by council of the Municipality of Swan Valley West. A mover, please. Councillor Kushniryk, someone to second the resolution. Councillor Neely. Discussion on the reports, I see
We only got one, or we got?
Two.
I see two. There's one on the back of the other
There's
page.
an October 5th and an October 15th.
back it up.
Get
Not the
this
same
in
as yours.
October 15th.
And then the back, the other one is on the back of the, building, the bylaw enforcement report.
Okay.
Let's turn that page over that you've got in your handbook. Nope. That one, yep, turn that one, there you go. There's it.
Well, I knew that.
Good job. Okay, any discussion on the resolution once you've seen the reports?
I just was reading the second one, sorry.
One of these was that false alarm again. eh?
Yes.
On the range station. Okay.
Yeah, that was the burnt toast one. And the other one was the combine fire.
Yeah.
You, Councillor Blosha?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
Yeah, I just
Anything
wanted to
else?
read it.
Nope, with hearing nothing else, we'll call the question. Those in favor? Councillor Zbirun?
Yes.
So carried. Be it resolved that the Swan River Fire Department response report for October 2022 be received by Council of the Municipality of Swan Valley West. Someone to move that, please. Councillor Blosha, someone to second it. Councillor Neely. Very simple report, no calls, no hours, no amount invoiced. Any discussion on the report? Hearing none, we'll call the question. Those in favor? Councillor Zbirun?
Yep.
Is carried. The AMM member advisory renominations for the vacant board, we have a resolution prepared. Everybody's fine with doing that. Paperwork. Be it resolved that the AMM member advisory regarding vacant AMM board positions shall be received by the Council of the Municipality of Swan Valley West. Someone to move the resolution, please. Councillor Burick. Someone to second the resolution. Councillor Kushniryk. Any discussion on that? If you're interested in running for the board, you can certainly do that. The information's there on how you would do that. Any discussion? Call the question, those in favor? Councillor Zbirun?
Yep.
That is carried. The next one we'll discuss for a second, and then we'll fill in those blank spots in the resolution. Jillian McGrath has invited us to the 25-year celebration for Swan Valley Immigrant Services. And I felt we should bring that to the board just to see if we wanted to send somebody. There's a second part here about appointing, I think we did already, didn't
Yeah.
we? That's
Yeah.
part of our committee appointments?
Well, I thought you had discussed it but hadn't did a
No, do you
affirmative.
want me to look at my list?
I'm sure if you want.
And we thought that it went under,
I think this is what
No,
we would
we
call
have-
settlement services.
yeah,
So
so,
I think we have someone appointed already.
okay. I thought that was, that it wasn't decided if it was under that for sure.
Oh, we do have it, we just have to. I know we did.
Under settlement services?
Right
Yeah.
at the bottom.
Yeah, it's you.
Okay. So this is written to appoint someone, but I'm gonna just strike that part. And the question to council is, do you wish me to attend their 25th anniversary
Yeah.
celebration? Be it resolved that. Be it resolved that Bill Gade will attend the 25th anniversary celebration of Swan Valley, of the Northwest Regional Immigrant Services Board. Sorry, I'll read this again because I've messed it up already. Be it resolved that Bill Gade will attend the 25th anniversary celebration of the Northwest Regional Immigrant Services Inc. Board. Be it further resolved that all meeting expenses shall be reimbursed according to the current council indemnity rates. Someone to move that, please. Councillor Burick. Someone to second the resolution. Councillor McGregor. Any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor? Councillor Zbirun.
Yes.
It's carried. We're we're moving to unfinished business. Be it resolved that the 2022 Airport Commission budget be received by the Council of the Municipality of Swan Valley West. Someone to move that, please. Councillor Kushniryk, and a seconder, please. Councillor Neely. So there's two parts. There's a second resolution to come approving the payment for it. In your package, you'll find the budget approved by their board, which provides for essentially a balanced budget on their part. A little work to be done yet this year on the fuel tanks and card lock systems. You weren't the airport rep, were you, Councillor Blosha? No, so we don't have the rep with us from the previous meeting, but I know they were installing a card lock system for aviation fuel, which was partially in 2021. It looks like the remainder of that is in 2022. Otherwise, for the most part, it looks like their typical budget to operate the airport. They are still using some of their accumulated surplus here to keep the costs down. Last year, they used 155,000 of a surplus. This year, they're calling for 75,000 of a surplus. So the amount we're paying will then obviously be less than it would have been if they hadn't done that. So what we passed tonight for their payment will be lower than we would necessarily expect it to be another year.
2020, they made quite a bit of money there. You know,
Yeah, they did.
big fuel sales.
The reason why it wasn't passed is because, like, Minnetonus and those guys haven't passed theirs either, because there's disagreement on the way that is calculated.
We're back to that again.
Well, I'm just saying,
Yeah,
that's what
no.
it is, but
So-
just so you know, they want to base it on assessment, not per capita. Airport serves people, not necessarily land. And that's why it wasn't passed. Just
Should
for
we-
background.
Should at least be split or something. You know, because.
I would almost think maybe whoever's
back.
on the airport should get some background on it at the next meeting first,
Okay.
but
That'd be me.
that would be
Thanks,
you.
Carrie. No, just kidding.
Just saying, you should know that.
Okay, so I'm sensing that we're going to table this. Is that
Yep.
fine with the group? Do you,
Fair?
I think so.
That's fair.
If there's disagreement, let's go find out what it
Just
is
so
and
I-
sort it out, right before we go into
Just
this.
so I got it clear, it's the fees based on assessment that you're questioning.
Yeah, it's not just this, like three of the
Our assessment's
four
substantially higher.
partners don't agree. One wants it that way, the other three don't agree, so you have to, I would like you to go to the meeting and have it explained
Well,
to
I would
you.
like to split it, half assessment and half population.
So that you'd
Would
have
that
to,
be an option?
you'd have to bring that
If
up
I
at
can
your
do that.
airport commission meeting.
I guess I'd have to
Well,
bring it back here first anyways.
Well, let's, just quickly discuss it for a second. Is council agreeable to sending Councillor Neely with that position that we would want to split the fees? Is that what we want to do? Or do we want him to come back and explain all the options to us
I'd say
before we
come-
decide?
Yeah.
I'd say come back and explain it.
Okay.
Decision.
So if you could bring to that board that, get yourself up to speed and then we'll get you to come back.
Yeah.
and
Like, I
explain to
just
all of
think
us.
everybody should have that information
Yeah,
before they
before you
vote
make
on
it,
it.
yeah.
Okay.
Well, they got new councils too, you know.
Okay, so we're gonna table that in its entirety. There's two resolutions there. We'll just leave on the table.
Okay.
Number 10, committee reports. We typically do committee reports. My encouragement would be that I want to spend a little more time on this than we have in the past, because sometimes all we've done is lift off the committees we've been to instead of actually speaking to what happened at the meetings. And this is really the best opportunity for all of our council to be up to speed on what happens on the individual committees you serve on. Because then we all know what's happening, we can all go together as a team rather than just saying, gee, I don't know what's up with. It's a good chance for that. I recognize not a lot of people have been to committee meeting yet, so we'll go around the table. I do have a report for both utility and fire committee that I'll do when we get to me. So if you were one of the folks at one of those meetings, you might get off the hook. Councillor Burick.
Haven't attended any.
Two
Okay.
special meetings.
Well,
You're at two special
I
meetings.
guess those special meetings, yeah.
Yeah, those are meetings.
And what do you report on them? Just,
But we're all there, right, so.
But you still,
I thought we were talking about the committee meetings we're talking about.
Yeah, to me, we focus more on the committees. Like, I think what we want to do is share the information. So if you've been to a committee meeting without all of council, you know, if we're all at a meeting, there's no point sitting here and rehashing all what we know already because we were there and discussed it. But if you were to a committee meeting where only 1 or 2 members were there, I think this is where we're going to look to you to tell us what happened.
Yeah.
So,
But I haven't attended any.
okay. Councillor Zbirun, I suspect you haven't either.
No, but I'm supposed to go tomorrow night to a vet meeting.
Okay.
I don't think, the way things are going now, I don't think I'm going to be able to attend. I don't know if I can attend by phone, or should we send somebody else on my behalf?
Is there a substitute alternate or no?
No. And that, if I recall correctly, that was somewhat an urgent meeting they had requested.
Yes, yes.
So it would probably be good for us to send an alternate if you can't attend by phone.
Yeah.
So we will,
Or should we just plan on sending an alternate for this time and leave it at that?
we could. Is there someone that
Guys, whatever you think.
is there someone that would like to attend as an alternate?
Just a veterinarian,
That board.
Yeah, it's going to be at the town office there in Swan.
and what time?
What time?
7.
7 p.m. tomorrow.
Yeah.
Is there somebody that would like to attend that? If no one will, I'll go, but if one of you wants to go, feel free.
I'm just down the road, is it at the vet clinic, is that?
No, it's
what-
town
No,
office.
Town
The
office.
town office?
Town office.
7 o'clock.
Town hall, is it town office or
Town
town?
office.
Town office, sorry.
Town office, yeah, I can go.
Okay, Councillor Neely will attend that on your behalf and he'll be in touch with you after to bring you up to speed.
Okay, maybe just get a hold of Lance.
Okay, we will tell Lance.
Okay, very good, thank you.
Councillor Kushniryk.
I attended the utility and fire committee meetings.
Do you want to give us a long report on those or you want to just wait for
I'm
mine?
gonna wait for yours.
Next time it's your turn.
All right.
Councillor Blosha.
No committee meetings.
Councillor McGregor. And Councillor Neely. So for myself, I have unfortunately 3 reports for tonight for committees. Councillor Zbirun, my apologies, we'll get these to you, but I didn't have them ready in time to get them in the package. So you will have to just follow along on the phone, but I'll read out the important parts.
Okay,
So this is a report of the utility committee meeting. It was held November 4th. Committee met in Benito at 7 p.m. November 4th, discussed a variety of topics. Utility supervisor informed us the trial of a new treatment method was working well. Instead of using potassium, they've tried using double chlorination. It's reduced the amount of manganese to very low levels. A full metal test will be done shortly to confirm the findings of the daily tests. With the reduction in levels, the incidence of brown water should decrease. Initial data from various homeowners with filter systems seem to indicate the water is causing less issues. There's still buildup in the lines, more flushing will be needed. We may have to look at other methods of flushing to further clean the lines.
Sorry.
The reservoir needs to be cleaned again, but then the cleaning should not be needed as often with the lower levels. Committee has asked council to approve a new treatment process on a permanent basis. Committee discussed the issue of water meter reads not being available to properly bill the current quarter. Committee's recommended that the entire quarter is billed at the old rates. Committee discussed the current rate application. We looked at the reasons for the extreme losses and feel that there are substantial accounting irregularities. Committee does not feel that there are any simple amendments possible to solve the scope of the accounting issues. As such, the committee's recommended that the current rate application be abandoned. A new application should be brought in 2023 when the accounting has been fixed. Committee feels a small increase will be needed, but nothing to the size of what was requested. Committee wishes to prepare information for the public and has requested approval from the council to make an information package and distribute it to the public. Next meeting is the call of the chair. With that, we have utility committee scheduled in camera. What is the feeling as a group? Is there things we should discuss in camera about that report? We're going to have some recommendations that we'll have to vote on at some point, but we'll do that in camera. Do we want to do that in camera? Do we want to do it on open council? You guys know what you want to talk about. I don't necessarily. I like to be as open as we can, so I don't want to put it in camera unless we have to.
Well, is,
Whatever you use, you know.
I don't know if there's any names or anything
No, there's
detrimental
nothing
to us.
about
There's
HR in
nothing-
there.
No names? Okay.
No.
Okay, so what we'll do is we'll pick that up immediately after we finish committee reports. We'll come back to it and we'll talk about what those recommendations were.
Okay.
Next report is fire committee report. Fire committee met last evening at 7:30. Fire committee met with Gade Fire Department members at 7:30 November 7th. The meeting did not have resolutions, it was informal based. Gade chief sent his regrets to the meeting. Following items were discussed. There's concerns that the chief's radio is working, needs to be confirmed if it's broken. Members are concerned about missing hose, missing foam, and missing air tanks. 1.5-inch hose is missing. They have some new 4-inch hose in boxes. As many as 10 pails of foam are missing, and the radio is missing. Members shared concerns about their tanker truck disappearing. Members discussed the new portable pump would be useful. The group discussed the current year budget for Bonito Fire. The group will present a budget request in December for 2023. The group discussed using the money available in 2022 for training and equipment. One set of turnout gear was damaged in a recent fire and will need to be replaced. The internet service to the fire hall has been reconnected after a firefighter paid for it out of their own pocket. The Reeve assured the member they will be reimbursed. Body work is required for the rescue unit. It's in the shop at the time of the meeting for a fuel issue. It will not pass safety without work being done on the rust. Members are concerned that MPI claims are not being billed and that Swan Valley West is missing income that could be used to support the department as a result. Members feel that the last 2 years of claims were not filed. The group discussed fire coverage for the Arm of Livingston and the current agreement. The members will inquire about the 911 map for the Saskatchewan Public Safety Answering Point due to a dispatch error earlier this year that saw the wrong department attend a call. They will confirm that Bonito is assigned to the correct area. Members are told that the Santa Day will be held on December 17th. The fire department will help. Council may be asked for supplies for the community event. Members discussed a plan for upcoming training. A trainer has been located. The group discussed the Thunder West Fire Department. Several concerns were shared. The group was told that council was reviewing options for the department and hoped to make a decision in the near future. And the meeting was adjourned with a time of fellowship and cupcakes. Sorry you missed it. It was good.
It almost feels, a good report, almost feels like was there.
But you didn't get no
Yeah,
cupcake.
no cupcakes.
No, no cupcake.
So that's my report on that, and then I have just a brief Reeves report of what I've been up to, so that you don't think I did nothing for the last couple of weeks.
We don't.
So, this direction, our acting CAO is diligently noting all my typos as I read, so don't worry, she'll deal with those for us. So the report for tonight, I attended the credit union for signing authority. I spoke with our vendor regarding the website. They gave notice to end the involvement with our website on December 1st. It will need to be moved and then updated, so we're working with them on that, and we'll continue to do so. I met with the Swan River Fire Chief and toured the facility. I requested and received some operational information. That, however, has to be shared in camera because of the nature of the information. Met with the mayor and town CEO regarding fire. A fact sheet was provided by the town that shows the average cost for Swan River Fire over the past 10 years has been $67,000 per year. That fact sheet will be shared here later tonight with council. Met with Cook Brothers regarding crushing. They were told to stop work prior to completing enough gravel for next year's roads. Work has begun again, weather permitting. They feel they will have time to get that crushing work done. I also spoke with Mr. Bobick earlier today, who was expressing his concerns about our gravel inventory, where that crushing is being done. So as long as the crushing does complete this fall, we have our fingers crossed it does, we should have inventory to do our normal maintenance cycle in the spring. But there is absolutely no extra inventory that we've been able to find yet. So it's going to be very difficult. I know some councillors had spoken about applying extra gravel, doing extra projects in the spring. It may be that there simply isn't enough gravel in stockpile to do any of that, but we'll keep looking into that, and we have a couple months here to figure out a plan yet. I was working with the interim CAO regarding several issues. Those are unfortunately going to in camera because they relate to HR matters. I attended the courthouse regarding the tickets for the Hill construction project. There's 2 fines have been issued. We have decided to plead guilty, so last meeting we kept this in camera, but because we've made that decision, it's no longer impacting our legal ability, so we're gonna release that. 2 fines, one was for $2,545, one for $1,296. I am waiting on the court to have time to plead guilty and request those fines be reduced. We're going to explain to them the situation, which basically boils down to our municipality, you're penalizing the ratepayers, not us. We've learned from our mistake and we certainly will never do it again, so please lower the fines. There's also an engineering study that's being ordered as part of that. There were the fines, but we also have some orders to conclude the work. So the cost of the engineer is $12,200. They'll provide a report. That report will tell us what we have to do to the site to stabilize the bank that we were working on. We do not have an accurate estimation of costs. However, we can share it will be very expensive. It will not be likely cheap, but we'll wait on the engineer to tell us exactly what's there, and hopefully they provide an estimate. If not, we will get one from their work. Met with Manitoba Fire and Utility, we talked about that, and I also worked on a draft budget for Thunder West Fire. Since I've got here, there is no draft budget for operations for the fire department, so I spent some time on the weekend making one. I based that on the Benito Fire Service because they do a similar call volume, they're a similar sized department. So I will share the draft budget with council. Unfortunately, some of the information on the page probably is privileged, so I can't share that tonight. I know Jeremy's going to want it, but I just can't give it to you quite yet until we at least discuss it in camera. I can share though that the bottom line of the budget, looking at a 25-year projection with next year being year 1 and going for 25 years, we were looking to what the cost savings would be for the Thunder West Fire Department because that's been well talked about, that there'll be cost savings from the department, so we're trying to put some numbers to that. What the projections show that is over the 25 years, we would unfortunately spend an additional $3.7 million more on the Thunder West Fire Department than if we had contracted with the town of Swan River, which probably wasn't what we were wanting to see, but that's what the numbers show, and we'll pick that up in camera as to why those numbers are there, because there are some HR stuff on that that will leave. That is my report for this evening. Questions, comments to anybody tonight about anything they reported?
Well done.
Typically, we pass a resolution accepting the reports. If everyone's fine with that, we'll do that. Be it resolved that we hereby accept the following verbal reports regarding council committees and communications. Councillor Byron Burick was none. Councillor Zbirun spoke about the vet committee meeting, and we're making arrangements on that. Councillor Kushniryk spoke extremely briefly about utility and fire. Councillor Blosha hadn't attended, Councillor McGregor hadn't attended, and Councillor Neely had not attended. And I gave a report on utility, fire, and a Reeve update. We don't have an LED committee report, so I'm going to strike this part off. There would be a part here to receive that as well. Do we have a mover for the resolution? Councillor Burick, a seconder.
Yeah.
Councillor Zbirun. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. Those in favor? Councillor Zbirun.
Yes.
That is carried. That brings us to the end of our regular agenda, but we were going to pick up the utility committee. So let us do that before we move to the camera.
You missed the Christmas one.
It's in camera, isn't it?
Yes,
Oh,
camera.
sorry.
It's in camera.
I moved my head too.
So at the utility committee, I'll just go through the recommendations that came forward and why, and then as council, we need to either approve those or do something else. So first resolution would be resolved that we recommend changing the Benito treatment process to double chlorination and remove potassium from the treatment process. So I'll give you a quick technical overview and see if I can bore you. For many years now in Benito, the treatment process is to add potassium permanganate to the raw water. It then circulates briefly, goes through a green sand filter. After the green sand filter, we add chlorine and place it into the reservoir to allow some contact time with the chlorine. Many years ago, that was the right process when we were using natural green sands. Several years ago, the natural green sands were removed from the filter and we replaced them with synthetic green sands. At the time, for whatever reason, no one noticed that synthetic green sands are not compatible with potassium permanganate. So though we continued treating with potassium, the green sands were no longer properly removing the manganese from the water. When we would add chlorine to the water after treatment and filtering, we would then precipitate the manganese both in the reservoir and in the piping system. That continued for many years. As it precipitated, the pipes eventually filled up. When a piece breaks off, it tends to tumble down the pipe, breaking off more, and we have a brown water incident, which has been very common in Bonito. Earlier, it was discovered that those synthetic green sands were not compatible with potassium. Unfortunately, before that discovery was made, they were replaced with another set of synthetic green sands, trying to solve the problem at a cost of about $25,000. That did not solve the problem in any way because the new ones also were not compatible with potassium. So with approval of drinking water officer, we switched the system to double chlorination. So we now add chlorine to the raw water. That causes precipitation of the manganese and iron. We filter that with synthetic green sands, which catches all of the precipitate now. We then come out of there and, if required, add additional chlorine. Although at the moment we're barely adding any additional chlorine because enough chlorine is coming through the process that we're already fully chlorinated. We then store in the reservoir. The difference that has made is it's taken our manganese from above the aesthetic levels, and in some cases above the health hazard levels, to practically zero. The water that's coming out of the system now is clean. It is not precipitating manganese in the reservoir or the lines. There have been some small brown water incidents from material in the lines breaking off, but for the most part we are no longer making that problem worse. We're slowly getting better. So as we continue to flush the lines, we'll get more and more of that out. The anecdotal evidence we have so far is that there are several people in Bonito that have water filters that filter their incoming water, and those filters would plug within weeks to a couple months usually. Those filters are no longer plugging. They're maintaining a clean white state like they should, with the exception of should there be a brief brown water incident. But it doesn't appear that we're precipitating manganese anymore. So the recommendation of the committee is that we keep that treatment process because it's working. A full metals count will be done in a couple weeks' time. That is sampled in the middle of the system to see what's actually in our lines. Council will see those results when they come in, but we're expecting it will be extremely low because what we're putting in is very low. So the problem, ostensibly, that everyone's been talking about for several years with Bonito water should now be resolved. Pending some additional line work as we get rid of the last of it in the system and things stabilize. Do you have a
I asked a
resolution?
question,
Go ahead.
who discovered that?
So the utility supervisor says that in consultation with the drinking water officer, it wasn't exactly Mr. Yo. It was Mr. Yo's associate that works with the aesthetic side. That's probably the simplified answer. If you go back in time several years ago, Access to Information Act requests were being made to the municipality for the brand of the green sands, because at the time of the Walkerton Water Institute being involved and wanting to help resolve the problem, they needed to know what green sand was in there. Unfortunately, that administration of council chose to withhold that information and never did release the brand of the green sands. So had it been released a few years ago when it was asked for, the problem probably would have been discovered at that point and resolved, because that's why the question was being asked, to know if it was the right treatment process. But ostensibly, I would think the credit for this we would put to our utility supervisor, because he was diligent enough to work with the drinking water folks and find a solution to the problem, and a solution we did need. So it's very good to have one.
Maybe the cheap solution.
So, yeah, we'll continue to monitor, but it certainly looks very promising. The second recommendation that came from the committee, and we have a resolution to approve them all, but we can change that if we don't want to approve them all. Be it resolved that we recommend the August to October quarterly bills be billed at the previous rates to provide stability to system users. So there's two parts to this. Public Utilities Board issued an interim order for the Bonito utility, raising the water rates approximately 400%. That order took effect October 1st, but our billing cycle does not correspond to October 1st, so that isn't a clean quarter for us. we would have had to read the meters on September 30th, bill for 2 months at the old rate, then read again at the end of October and bill the last month at the new rate. We would have done that. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. And we could discuss in camera why. It's not something we can discuss at this table now in an open meeting, but it did not occur. So we do not have the ability to properly bill that quarter, 2 months at the old rate and 1 month at the new rate. At best, we could guess and we could average people's water. The feeling of the committee was that because of the next recommendation, we simply bill it at the old rate. And we talked to Public Utilities Board about why we were technically unable to do that and bill at the new rate. Any questions on that?
And that water services rate quadrupled the price?
400%. It was a request of this council that it go up.
It's in a deficit. So the report comes back. It wasn't the council that put it to that. The report comes back suggesting that. They suggested it for 5 years, we asked for 7.
So we probably should talk about the third recommendation because it has half the answers to that in it. Be it resolved that we recommend council abandon its rate application for a rate increase of the Benito utility with a commitment to file a new application in calendar 2023. So what's at play there is that council did have a rate study done for the Benito utility, and the rate study quite correctly did come back suggesting a 400% increase in water rates, effective as soon as possible, because the utility is in a substantial deficit position. The committee took some time to look at how that occurred. Most notably, in 1 year, the utility is reported to have lost $118,000 on a utility that only actually has normal expenses of 100,000 income and 100,000 expense. So the expenses more than doubled in that particular year. The committee looked at some of the expenses in some years and found that there were substantial irregularities in the finances. Most notably, there's approximately 2 hours used per day for the utility, 3 hours a day on weekends. The amount billed to the utility for that time was equivalent to 1.5 full-time operators. So they're being billed for 60 hours a week instead of 16 hours a week. That caused substantial losses in the utility. There's also some billing issues where 30% of the water is unaccounted for. And we probably have a handle on that. Some of that, though, is an in-camera topic. But through losses of revenue and it would appear very questionable expenses that likely did not be suitable to assign to utility, the losses seem to be far larger than anticipated. For reference, this year so far in the utility, with the normal amount of expenses, the utility is actually operating at a profit at this time, even though it's lost money for the past 5 or 6 years on paper. Because of the complexity of the issue and where we're at, the Utilities Board has received our application. They've issued an interim order raising the rates by 400%. They are now waiting for us to respond to them on a bunch of questions they have. We received a substantial amount of public input. This is the public input opposing our water rate increase in Benito. It would be fair to say it represents at least half, I would say, of all utility users in Benito filed opposition to our application for a variety of reasons. Many of them pointing out the same things I've just explained here tonight about irregularities in the billing. They attached pictures to it. Some of them hand-wrote letters. The Utilities Board has asked us to explain why the majority of these people say they were never consulted in any meaningful way, why council never explained this to them, and what our plan was to do that. They also then asked if we had any other things and if we had resolved the meter, billing, collection issues, and we had until today to respond. So I asked the interim CAO to send them a letter saying we would not be able to respond by today because we're having a meeting tonight. But the committee feels that given all of the opposition, all of the issues with the rate study and the finances, the only sensible thing to do is to advise Public Utilities Board we wish to abandon the application, have that interim order rolled back so the 400% would not exist anymore. We would go back to old rates. But we do need to raise rates probably 10 to 15% instead of 400%. So the committee would look to, in the early next year, file a new application for an appropriate rate increase. once those accounting issues are dealt with. And there's bound to be lots of questions, so go ahead with your questions. Councillor Zbirun, do you have questions? We're looking at you first.
I don't know where to begin. I think they're getting pretty cheap utilities from what I've checked out in other places. Like, there's not too far away from here that the amount of money they're paying in 1 year would only cost, they'd only get half the water that this other place was getting, if you understand.
Is that on the old rates or on the new rates?
Well, that's on the old rates, I guess. And I'm wondering, like, the water is one thing, but what about the infrastructure? I mean, when it comes time to repair that, where do they get the money for that if they don't have anything in the reserve?
So the topic of reserves, there was substantial reserves in the utility a couple years ago. Where exactly those reserves are located at the moment is best explained as one of the things that needs to be resolved in an accounting investigation. Some of the reserves appear to have maybe been applied to, it's tough to say. Council passed some resolutions applying reserves to things that weren't utility, then they withdrew those resolutions. At this time, we simply do not know what's in the books with regard to what happened to those reserves. We need to investigate that further.
Because I mean, you remember there was a study done, remember when they wanted to make the lagoon bigger?
Yes.
And there was a study done, and they found out, now I don't have the numbers in front of me or anything, but let's say there was 1,000 gallons coming into the town that people were using, but yet there was 3,000 gallons going into the lagoon. And they found that it was the infrastructure that was leaking, that the infrastructure needed to be replaced. And yet that hasn't never been looked at yet. And pretty soon, I'm thinking that the provincial government is going to be coming and knocking and saying, hey, we need to either build a bigger lagoon or get something done with this infrastructure.
So I have good news on that front to share. That
Okay.
was a concern a few years back. The sewer line in question was relined and repaired. An additional study was done after that time. The lagoon is no longer seeing additional flows. It was groundwater seepage. The lagoon overflow issue has been resolved, and the province has agreed there is no need to expand the lagoon capacity for the Benito system. So that is resolved, thankfully.
Yes.
Yeah, good. I guess that's all I know.
Okay, thank you.
What you're saying, Byron, is that infrastructure is 60 years old.
Yeah. In some places it is, yes.
1965.
Yeah.
And much of it would be that age.
Mm-hmm.
Other comments tonight? So I have a resolution I'll read, and then if you want more discussion, we can. Be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of Swan Valley West has received the recommendations from the Utility Committee and hereby agree to make the following request to the Public Utilities Board. Request, this doesn't put capture. I'm not sure this fully captures it, so we're probably going to just, if it's agreeable to the group, we'll pick this up after in camera. We've had the discussion, but we'll just do a little rewriting here, rather than me making a bunch of notes on this. We'll pick it up after that session.
Good.
I believe that brings us to the in-camera session. Does anybody else disagree with that? Nope, I actually kept on agenda tonight. I'm kind of proud of myself. We will take a recess for 10 minutes, because I'm sure many of us need to go and check the temperature.
Wind.
The health break.
A health break, yes,
Wind
a health
for sure.
break. And then we will return. When we return, we'll be going in camera. And that's that, we're in recess. Thank you, everybody. Call the meeting of council back to order after a break. During the break, our Public Works foreman was able to share his written report with us. Councillor Zbirun doesn't have it, so I'm going to read through it quickly so he gets to hear it, as well as you guys get to read it. Accomplishments. Are you able to hear me there, Councillor Zbirun?
Yes,
Okay.
sorry.
Accomplishments, new hire of casual operator Brett Schultz. In contact with potential water treatment operator with a class 2, Matt Leslie. 2022 culvert work orders completed. Notre Dame used oil, now set to collect used oil. They pay the municipality for the used oil they take. Scrubbing for the town of Swan Lagoon project completed. In return, the town will provide sanding services to 2 locations near Pot and Drive. All beaver gates installed for problem culverts. Current priorities, fix snow gear on graders. In talks with Tim Ricks currently. 170 wheeled hoe pump, still not fixed, waiting for Tim Ricks to look at. Find full-time grader operators and Benito landfill attendant. Daniel has received his 2-week notification as of November 8th. Mark will be an asset for a while longer with other projects, including metalwork and fabrication. Upcoming projects, scrubbing has been started along the 172 and 220 area, numerous spots. Excavator sitting in Alpine currently with scrubber head. With council's approval, I'd like to start looking into GPS for all public works and RM equipment for both maintenance and safety reasons. We should start looking at replacing some snow equipment on graders. I'm sure to have more to say, but I can't think of any more after being the grader for 10.5 hours. I'm sure you'll all feel sorry for me after reading this. If you have any further questions, please feel free to contact me regarding. I have a resolution. Be it resolved that with the written Public Works foreman report be received by council for the Municipality of Swan Valley West. Remover, Councillor Blosha, seconded by Councillor Neely. Any discussion on that report? Hearing nothing, we'll call the question. Those in favor? Councillor Zbirun?
Yes.
That's carried. We also revised the resolution during the break that we spoke about immediately prior with the water recommendations. I'll read that. Be it resolved that the council of the municipality of Swan Valley West has received 4 recommendations from the utility committee and hereby agree to implement all 4 of them. A mover for that. Councillor Burick, seconder. Councillor Kushniryk. Discussion on that. Any discussion?
I didn't quite hear what that one was, Bill.
Okay, I'll reread it. Be it resolved that the council of the municipality of Swan Valley West has received 4 recommendations from the utility committee and hereby agree to implement all 4 of them.
Okay, can you remind us the 4?
I sure can.
Thank you. I don't ask you to read them all, just,
So
No, we don't
go
need
through
that.
them on paper so I don't miss
yeah.
it. So the first one was recommending changing the treatment process from double
Okay.
chlorination, or to double chlorination from potassium. The second one was recommending August to October quarter bills be at the previous rates because we were having trouble doing part of it with the new rates because of how the meters were read. The third one was to abandon the rate increase and commit to filing a new one in 2023 for a smaller increase. And the last one was to have council approve the committee send a mailer to each mailbox in Benito and Durban with an update to the utility. So basically, the council approves the committee to send a mailer to each mailbox in Benito and Durban with an update to the utility. Basically, this information into paper form so they all see it. The question came up in the break, why Durban? The thought was that because a lot of bulk water users come from Durban, that would be an easy, cheap way to get to them too.
Yeah.
But we may also post it in the bulk water for anyone that's coming from outside that area.
Yeah, you can post it at the post office as well.
Yeah, just because we want everybody to see it.
Yeah,
know what's
no,
going on.
I just want to know. Well,
I
I knew,
just
I
wanna-
remembered the 3.
I just want to make a comment or
Sure.
whatever you want to call it. Maybe I'm looking for information too, but water utility is a user pay thing, right?
Yes.
So the longer you prolong some kind of an increase there, I'm just saying, the longer you prolong it, the bigger the bill's gonna be at the far end. So, I mean, quadrupling it 400%, whatever you wanna call it, is a little bit extreme, okay? Like, all that infrastructure is, like I said to Byron, is just about 60 years old now because my brother-in-law was the engineer that put it in there. So, do you wanna prolong the agony, or, I mean, for the people of Benito that are on water? And I lived there for 19 years, I got a lot of friends there and stuff, and I feel bad for them that they had bad water, but it's a user pay thing, so they have to look down the line, if not for yourself, and maybe your kids, or, you know, somebody else, good friends, or whatever, that you have to put money in, so you got money in reserves to fix things when they break. Just so everybody is clear on exactly what is, that's my take on it, okay?
I would think that in the new application, the Public Utilities Board is gonna look at it and say, we do need money to replace infrastructure, we're not denying that.
Yeah.
What we're getting at is that there was never a look at why are we going into these deficits so much.
Was it not them that said to bring it up 400%?
Based on a report that says we have lost 30% of our produced water, based on not looking at any efficiencies we could have gained in how we're billing out our expenses to operate the plant. If you look at other municipalities with comparables, the closest one I found back when I was actually really researching this had over $1 million in water sales to compare to our cost of operating. And we're 120, 110?
120.
So it was 10 times the volume of sales, and it cost the same amount of money to run it. Like, we're not looking for any efficiencies, right? So what we're looking at is saying that we could have saved money here, 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 and here. Instead, all council did was throw a whole bunch of money and say, oh, they're losing money, we need to do this. I've asked multiple times to see different, where did our reserves go, etc. Nothing would ever be produced. So if we come and we research these numbers and it turns out we need 400%, I guess so be it.
Yeah.
We need 400%. But right now, I don't think we do.
One example I can think of, we were talking about that lagoon earlier, and I was on council back in those days, and I think that study cost $20,000 or more
Mm-hmm.
to do that lagoon study, and it wasn't even the lagoon's fault, right?
Mhm.
So I mean, you know, 20,000 here, 20,000 there, pretty soon you got $120,000, you know? So I don't know, we want to do an audit on the Benito utility account or something, I should find out. There was a lot of CAOs went through here in a short period of time. There could have been some honest mistakes made. Anything could have happened when that amalgamation hit. So I'm not saying there's figures are 100%, they could be out.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a relatively small budget, right? It's $120,000. So I mean, to do an audit on that utility and find out, like I said, $20,000, you know, right away there's 16% of your budget, you know? So, and I know they were doing a lot of digging too. Not just that, you know, pipes were busting and everything else. There was lots of crap going on, literally. But, I mean, you know.
Yeah.
But it's something to look at and think about.
Yeah, it's, like I say, when we're all done, maybe we'll end up in the same place. I don't think so, but maybe, right? We've never looked for solutions.
Yeah, well,
Like,
we should look and see where it's going, or where it went, or maybe,
Yeah.
you know, let's look into it.
You know, Terry, there is such a program where you can get that you can punch in numbers of how much time the girls in the office work, how much time it actually takes to, you know, check the water plants on the weekends, and
Yeah,
how much time during the day they spend at the water plants, and it'll punch out at the end of the year exactly how much it's costing to run that plant.
yeah. I'm gonna get back to what Brad mentioned about the $1 million in sales compared to 100,000 in Benito. But there's a base figure you gotta start at. The guy's gotta go to the plant, whether it's for $100,000 a year in sales or whether it's for $1 million. He's still gotta go, and it likely takes him about the same length of time to.
Yeah.
definitely, but the numbers that we were using, like Bill said, it equates to 1.5 full-time positions.
Like when we punch in what the utility was saying it's costing to go to the plant, it's 12 hours a day at the plant. Based on what we pay per hour. So something's broken, because we're not there 12 hours a day.
But I was thinking like the 3-hour minimum, like you know, on the weekends and stuff.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So that same guy would get the same 6 hours at the $1 million sale, right?
There's also, when you mention the 3-hour minimum on the weekend, I've often complained that not through the fault of the ratepayers or anybody using the treatment plant, because we are never staffed to have people run that plant. We're paying time and a half every time that guy sets foot in there. Because it's always
On the
overtime.
weekend.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which is our bad management. You know, we should have.
That was always there, but the guy would take a day, half a day off or something before, and you didn't see it, you know, but since the union come in, well, then you can do all that kind of
We've
stuff, right?
talked for a couple of years about trying to do stuff like that, but I don't think it's ever.
Well, before, this is before the union, and,
Yeah.
and back when I was in Benito, Alec and Rick, and, I mean, way back then, one guy'd look after the plant one week and one guy the next week, and then they'd take Monday morning off, or
Yep.
whatever, you know.
Half the trouble in the last 4 years, quite often, there's not two licensed people.
No,
So we
that's
actually have
right,
the same person there.
yeah,
Sometimes 60 to 90 days in a row without a break.
yeah,
It's,
Yeah.
it's crazy.
and it's hard to find them people,
Any other discussion?
that's the only comment I have, I just wanted to.
Hearing none, we'll call the question. Those in favor? Councillor Zbirun?
Yeah.
That's carried. We are going to do in camera. Be it resolved pursuant to section 1523 as the municipal ad council shall meet as a committee of the whole to close the meeting and continue discussions in camera regarding human resource matters, fire discussion, tax sale information. Remover. Councillor Burick. Seconder, please. Councillor Kushniryk. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. Those in favor? Councillor Zbirun?
Yeah.
That's carried, and we will turn off the recorder. It's come out of the in-camera session. Resolved that in accordance with clause 8.5 of bylaw number 000215, the council shall extend the curfew by up to 1/2 hour in order to complete discussions regarding resolutions coming out of camera. Do we have a mover for that, please? Councillor Kushniryk, a seconder. Councillor Burick. Any discussion? Those in favor? Councillor Zbirun?
Yes.
That's carried. Be it resolved that council shall reschedule the upcoming November 22nd, 2022 regular meeting of council to Tuesday, the 29th of November, 2022. Do we have a mover for that? Councillor Blosha, seconded by Neely. Any discussion on that? Those in favor? Councillor Zbirun?
Yes.
That's carried.
Nothing now until the 29th unless we have a special meeting, right?
Yep.
Or a committee meeting.
Oh, Neely. Well, I thought you were writing it down too.
Well, he usually was, but
Oh,
you
okay.
just come along
Sorry.
here tonight.
Be it resolved that the council pause the operations of the Thunder West Fire Department pending further review, and that Swan River Fire shall begin responding to calls in the service area as soon as possible.
As a recorded vote, please.
Okay, is there someone that would like to move that? Councillor Burick has moved that. Is there a seconder for the resolution? Councillor Kushniryk. We have a recorded vote requested, but discussion. Who would like to discuss it? Anyone?
Well, I think you're making a mistake if you pause it. Just a big mistake.
I think it's important, like anybody wants to share their thoughts, share your thoughts, because this is,
We said we were going to give them time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
don't mind me, I'm just writing down all the names. Okay, does anyone have a preference? Can I just go around in a circle? Because I know sometimes
start
people
your
get
left
upset.
and work around, I guess.
Very good, because I don't want us to, yeah. Okay, so Councillor Kushniryk, how do you vote?
Read it again, I wanna make sure.
Be it resolved that council pause the operations of the Thunder West Fire Department pending further review, and that Swan River Fire shall begin responding to calls in the service area as soon as possible.
Yes.
Yes for Councillor Kushniryk. Councillor Blosha.
No.
Councillor Burick.
Yes.
Councillor Neely.
No,
Councillor McGregor.
Yes.
Councillor Zbirun.
No.
I'm voting yes. The resolution's carried. Anything else tonight before we adjourn? Be resolved, this meeting shall now adjourn at 11:18 p.m. Be it further resolved, the next regular meeting of council is Tuesday, 20th September 2022 at 7 p.m. Moved by Councillor Blosha. Who would like to second the resolution? Second by Councillor Neely. Any discussion? Those in favor?
Yes.
Councillor Zbirun? The meeting is adjourned. Thank you everyone for staying late tonight. I appreciate that.